Hello, this is Dread from Epic Builds, and in today's video topic, we will go over my physical crit Warpath Forge Guard. Perfect build for those who fantasize about swinging a big stick around your head.
For a big slash, and then you go again, and again, just offending everyone around you. Helicopter of death, Zweihander.
Before we get into the video, I would heavily suggest liking and commenting on the video if you're enjoying the content, as that's the best way to let YouTube know I'm doing a good job. So originally, I had planned to use the Leviathan Carver for this build, which didn't really pan out as a Zweihander with just some attack speed is highly superior, allowing us to apply our time rot stacks easier and overall having a lot more attacks per second. You must be wondering, if we're playing physical Warpath, then why is it purple? Well, EHD thought it was a good idea to lock half of our damage behind the Void Knight nodes, so we have to min-max and take the purple spinny winnie. The Time Rot nodes give us a total of 180% more damage with hits, so we're almost forced into it to do any amount of decent damage. You must also notice how our Warpath slowly enlarges its AoE as we spin. That's thanks to Warrior's Fury. Warrior Fury reads, for each second you continuously spin, Warpath deals more damage in a larger area, but costs more mana per second. Since we have 2 points in this node, it gives us 40% more damage and 40% increased area per second, but at a cost of 8 mana per second. This stacks until you run out of mana, and can easily reach 30 mana per second with Warpath. This is negated slightly thanks to our minus channel cost helm, which I have a 30% one, which makes it pretty much scale much slower, allowing us to reach those damage numbers without running out of mana. This kind of playstyle is amazing, as being able to get this much area while also doing this much damage is surreal, but it does come at a cost. Volatile Reversal can help us give our mana back, but sometimes you will run out of mana. That's why we run mana regen. I found that 17 to 18 to be the sweet spot for this specific setup, but you would have to mess around with that number. It allows us to make sure we still have damage throughout longer boss fights. We also use Lunge. We thought Lunge was dead entirely as a utility skill, as the removal of 240% free crit chance hurts almost all Sentinel builds that were crit, but thanks to them adding some neat nodes, it makes them a lot more usable. Lunge gives us 10% physical pen per enemy hit in a line where you lunge, causing some packs to give us 50% or more physical penetration, actually very strong for things like arena echoes where there's a bunch of mobs in a row. It also casts our smite for us, so we don't need to run one of those pesky smite on throwing attack hit idols as well. With all that being said, let's get into the game and show the build off. Alright, here we are in game with the build. Before we move on with the build, I do want to show you guys that yes, I did get up to 270 plus corruption, just to make sure you guys know, as some people have made it a habit to showcase level 100 corruption and try to showcase it as much higher corruption. So as proof, yes, that's how much I got into. You could probably go much farther than this. You could probably go very easily much farther than this. So let's get into the build actually, shall we? I just wanted to, clear that up with some people, that's all. So the build, like I said, is built around Warpath. We have a increasing channel cost per second, and we do a lot of damage. This is actually my first Forge Guard build of the patch, and we are already at level 100, which is pretty neat. So let's go over the skills, shall we? I have a 22 to Warpath. This is pretty much mandatory. This is the main reason why we can't run a Wings of Argentus, is to do damage with a crit Warpath setup. You definitely need the extra skills, as there's a lot of travel in the tree still, even with the changes to everything. So we take 2 points travel into Unchained, then 1 point into Reckless Spin. That will reduce our elemental res by 30%. As you can tell, I'm barely above the threshold, but it makes it so that in the beginning, our Warpath costs 0. Now, that's important so that later we don't reach into ridiculous channel costs. Then, of course, we take 1 point travel into Iron Reach, 3 points into Whirling Steel for a little bit of more damage while spinning, then 5 points into Cyclone of War. Why this is important is because it gives us 10 base crit with our sword. That means that we don't have to run base crit on our weapon, which is really, really strong as it allows us to run attack speed and melee flat. Then, of course, we take 2 points into Void Spiral Travel, 1 point into Echo Knight. This is a completely worthless node, but it's required so that we can get up to Apocalypse Whirl, so that it turns our Bleed and Ignite into Time Rot Chance, and that's specifically all of our Bleed and Ignite from Smelter's Might and from our idols, and it turns it into Time Rot Chance with Warpath so that we can grab Maw of the Deep. This will give you up to about 180% more damage because Time Rot stacks 12 times. And I think it's that much. No, I think it's 150%. Yeah, I'm wrong. It's 100. No, it is 180%. Yeah, it is 180%. Excuse me on that. But yeah, that's pretty much a lot of damage. And thanks to all of our Ignite and Bleed chance, we actually reach this cap very fast thanks to how fast we attack. Then, of course, we take 1 point travel into Quicksilver Wind, then 2 points into Warrior's Fury. This is the node I was talking about in the intro, where you get the damage, but you also get the mana cost, right? So I can show you what the damage looks like on the dummy here. You can tell as we spin longer, our damage goes up higher, up to like 40k crits per second. This is a Forge Guard. You can't really expect more than that. That's pretty good for a Forge Guard. And that's pretty much it for the Warpath itself. Like I said, we grabbed the minus channel cost helmet. As you can tell, it's much different without the minus channel cost helmet. It goes up way faster. So it's better just to have the channel cost helmet. Then for reversal, this is your stereotypical Volatile reversal setup. Not much new here. Sigils, this is your stereotypical sigil setup. One thing I've noticed though with sigils is if you're not benefiting from the fire damage per active sigil or you're using the void nodes, it's actually better to go for Word of Alicerity to make your cast speed with your sigils very fast, making the reversal trick much easier to get. So I actually implore you to try these nodes as these make your sigils feel much better. But yeah, other than that, it's your stereotypical sigil build. Smite got changed a little bit. There are a few things that are changed, but it's pretty much the same. You get the 30% mana regen on heal, which is pretty neato. You do need to be taking damage and then for the Smite to heal, but thanks to our Lunge, we pretty much automate that, which is really cool. Then they actually nerf this node to only be 20% attack speed. It's still one of the best skills for us thanks to the mana regen as well, so it's kind of like, what else are you going to run, right? Especially because while you're channeling Warpath. Then Lunge is new, so we'll go over the Lunge tree. I take 2 points travel into Dawn Charge, 1 point travel into Blade Stream. It makes it so that we do melee damage across the path of Lunge, 2 points into Broadside to increase the width of the path, then 5 points in Crusader's Fury. This gives us physical pen per enemy hit within the path for 10 seconds. So for instance, if I want to get some physical pen here, you have to like go through the mobs to get the physical pen, which is really strong in like Arena Echoes because you can get up to like 50% physical pen very easily. And since we're dealing only physical, this is just a more damage boost. Then we take 1 point into Warrior's Renewal. Pretty much whenever I Lunge and I Warpath, it kind of removes just a little bit of the cooldown on Lunge, which is really nice. Then 2 points into Initiate's Onslaught Travel, 3 points into Cull the Weak, so that Lunge, whenever we hit with Lunge, we cull the enemy. It's really good on bosses because the cull helps us significantly. Then 4 points into Holy Incursion. Lunge's final hit can cast Smite 3 times. This actually heals us up a decent amount, and it makes it so we don't have to run Smite idols, which you can see here. We don't run any Smite idols because we don't need it thanks to Lunge. And we actually don't self-cast our Smite except for on single target pretty much, which is pretty neato. And that's pretty much it for the skills. Now let's talk about the passives. So for the passives, we take 8 points into Juggernaut for the Void and Void res, and of course the Strength for the physical damage, and also the armor. 7 points into Fearless for the Vitality, 5 points into Armor Clad. Whenever you're nearby enemies, you take less damage, which is always up with Warpath. 3 points travel into Valiant Charge, makes our Lunge cooldown a little bit less, and also gives us some flat HP. 2 points into Axe Thrower. This is important for later, but pretty much it will throw an axe on hit. So I don't think it works on the dummy, but like you'll throw an axe on hit. Then 5 points into Blade Master for the attack speed. Before it was kind of like whatever, you didn't have to use this, but after the nerfs to Smite, where we don't get the attack speed, you were pretty much forced to run this to get anywhere decent attack speed. Now, for Void Knight, we take 8 points into Abyssal Endurance to help us cap our reses. You'll understand why I need this much Phys res as a Forge Guard later. And then, of course, 2 points into World Eater. I found 2 points to be enough for Leech. You could obviously go for more, but I'm level 100 and I'm capped out on points and I'm trying to save points. And we take 8 points in Defiance for the Ellie res. It's very nice. Having more mana as well actually makes it so we can last longer in Warpath. One of my viewers on Twitch actually is running a different version of this build where he gets up to 250 mana and uses reversal for all of his stuff. But obviously that's a completely different play style to this. But yeah, having more mana is actually better for this build. Then 7 points into Valor for the HP so we can get up to Sigils of Hope. Now for Forge Guard, we take 9 points to Weapons Master. This is just a lot of damage because the increased melee damage helps us a lot. 1 point travel into Refreshment of the Forge, 1 point travel into Peltast, 4 points into Shield Breaker. So whenever our throwing attack from Axe Thrower hits an enemy, it will apply 4 Phys Shred stacks. This is very strong on bosses, as in rares and stuff like that. And this combined with the Phys Shred blessing from Heaterot is enough Phys Shred to pretty much get to cap very easily. We take 6 points into Champion of the Forge for 60% increased damage, 6 points into Smelter's Might for the Bleed and Ignite chance, which is doubled while wielding a two-hander, which we are. Those giving us about 168% time rot chance with our Warpath, which is very important as we want as much time rot chance as possible. So we reach the cap of time rot stacks. Then of course 4 points into Might. If you don't know why my points are like this, it's because we're trying to save on points, as Forge Guard is known to be a point whore. Then of course 4 points in Might, 5 points into Duelist. You could obviously put more points into this later if you can find a way to scrounge up points. 5 points into Infinite Bulwark for the increased armor on potion use. This is very, very, very strong. As you can tell, we have 63%. We go all the way up to 72% increased armor while channeling. Very strong. Then 6 points into Lethal Strike, so you get some melee critical strike multiplier. You could actually shave some of these nodes and go into Duelist instead, thanks to one item I'll show you in a second. Then we take 8 points into Molded by the Forge. This is the main reason to go two-handed crit Warpath, is for Molded by the Forge for the increased attack speed. So as you can tell with all of this, we can get into insane amounts of attack speed, all the way up to 190% for a few seconds. And why that's important is because that's the break point to get up to like 6 attacks per second, allowing us to reach max time rot stacks in 2 seconds, which is really strong. Now for our gearing, idols, I want Warpath area and chance to ignite or bleed on high health. You can do either. I got some void res so I can cap my resistances. But yeah, mainly you just want the area and the chance to ignite and bleed, because that gets turned into time rot chance and allows us to deal more damage. There's not really much else you can grab on these, so that's why we're doing it. For the idols, I'm actually grabbing either crit chance in res or HP in res. Either way, they help us cap out our resistances, as we're very struggling as a Forge Guard versus like a Paladin, right? In comparison, right? Then for the helmet, strength, this could be melee physical with a sword, or strength, or increase melee damage with like a level to Forge Strike or something. Reduced channel cost, that's very strong for Warpath for this version, as it makes it so we can spin longer than health and endurance. For the amulet, I'm running mana regen and some elemental res. That elemental res pretty much almost helps us beat the -30 that Warpath gives us. Then some chance of frailty on hit. And then obviously for the last part, you'd probably either want physical or crit chance. Then for the weapon, this is almost the perfect weapon. If that chill on hit was instead, armor shred, this would literally be the perfect weapon. You want the health on melee hit because that helps us sustain our HP. You want the attack speed so we get up to insane amounts of attack speed. You want the melee physical so that we can reach up to like 200 flat physical. And the Phys pen on the Zweihander, it's the perfect base for it as well. This is like almost perfect. I just wish that chill on hit was armor shred. That's it. The chest, I actually have an exalted melee physical damage if wielding a sword. You don't need this. You'd rather have the crit avoidance base so that, you can actually, avoid crits. Then of course, +2 to Warpath, and then HB and HP. You don't need a T6? You don't need a T6 melee physical. A T5 would just do you just fine. For the rings, I'm running silver rings, but you could probably run resistance rings as well if you don't care about your movement speed. But crit chance, mana regen, uh, probably resistance there instead of dodge. I have pretty shitty gear, as you can tell. Mana regen, that's supposed to be T5 increase physical, then some res. Like, it's pretty, like, you use your rings to like flesh out your resistances mainly. Then for the belt, I have increased physical. That increased physical roll needs to be a cleanse, so that when we get chilled and marked for death, we can cleanse it off. Mana regen, because you want as much mana regen as possible with this kind of build, so that when you do run out of mana, you're not SOL. Crit avoidance and some hybrid health. These gloves are absolutely insane, but they're on the wrong base. If they was on the void res base, these would be amazing, but we get our endurance cap, so whatever, right? And of course, the attack speed is very strong, the crit chance is very strong, and the hybrid health is very strong. That endurance could probably be something else, probably crit avoidance, probably. And like I said, this could be on a different base. And then, but the thing is, since we're playing a Forge Guard and we're playing Warpath, one of our blessings is armor while channeling from shamans. So we want this instead, because instead of endurance percentage, because it gives us an insane amount of flat damage while spinning, as you can tell, right? Like, just spinning brings us all the way up to 50%. So having endurance gloves might actually be better in the end, thanks to that. Because you want as much endurance as possible so you can cap your endurance, right? Probably run it on rings as well, probably, if you had better rings than me. And yes, we are using Solarion Step. The reason why is it gives us such an insane amount of melee crit and makes us so we don't have to run melee crit on our Zweihander. We are at like an insane amount of melee crit right now. We're only at 223 on the sheet, but we get 60% from lethal strikes, and then 76%. This could go all the way up to 105. So this would bring us up all the way to 380% critical strike multiplier, which is really strong. And of course, we run an inscribed tablet. You must be wondering, if our Warpath is at 0 mana, why are we running an inscribed tablet? Well, the reason why is because this channel cost that we get is subtracted by the minus mana cost thing. So as you go up, obviously you get the minus three mana cost for that. We have the crit multi, the physical damage. This could be mana regen instead of the physical damage, and then res and res. And like I said, the idols, that's simple. And that's pretty much it for the build today. Sorry for it being a little bit rushed, but with that being said, thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you're at, and bye.